Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Jeffrey Gitomer, and I will be your host. Our guests today are Coach Jim Johnson and entrepreneur Frank DeMaria. Both men, believe it or not, are coaches. Jim has been a coach of high school basketball for the better part of 30 years. Fair to say?
Fair to say.
But his claim to fame is that there's one YouTube video with millions of views of his greatest moment in coaching, and that will appear as a URL as part of the footnotes of this program. And Frank DeMaria is a coach, but he doesn't really think of himself as a coach. He's an entrepreneur in a company that fixes people's homes, their plumbing, their all kinds of stuff about their sewers. But he has 185 employees, and he's their coach. And so I want Frank and Jim to talk about coaching and why it's important. What are the best elements of coaching? So I'm going to ask these guys to just sort of take it away and just have a conversation about the coaching process and how you get people to produce at their highest level based on one word: encouragement. Gentlemen, take it over.
Go ahead, Frank.
I've been called a lot of things. Not actually a coach, but I do coach. I have to keep 185 men happy day in, day out. And although I do pay these people, you would actually think that they would want to be really excited to come to work. They're getting paid. But it's like everyday living that they just feel complacent. I read a book one time by Earl Nightingale, and he says, you ask most Americans, or at least most people, well, why do you go to work? They said, because I'm supposed to. They don't see a dream, they don't see a vision, and they don't have a goal. So there's definitely no gold medal for them. So we have to try to keep them motivated, although, getting money for food is kind of important. But in lovely America, unfortunately or fortunately, if you don't make money, government will give you money. So we have to show them how to keep motivated to go the extra mile.
Yep.
For me,
Coaching became because I was so into sports and athletics, and my number one sport became basketball. And it's because of my love of basketball, I really wanted to, because I wasn't good enough to be a pro, is to find another way to stay in the game. And I fell in love. Now, my dad was my hero. My dad was my high school basketball coach, and I learned a lot from him. And I really kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps from that perspective. But once I got an opportunity to coach, it took some learning curve, because the first thing I did, I was really passionate about basketball, so I want to learn about basketball, which you need to do. Whatever you're going to be a coach in, you got to have some strength in that field. But what I didn't realize early on, because I was so into, I wanted to win the next game, and which, even at the end of my career, I still wanted to win. But the difference is I really understood that if we were going to win consistently, then I had to do a better job of being a coach as far as building relationships with our players, getting to know them, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and then day by day spending time on how we were going to build a great culture so that they wanted to be part of something that they felt good about and they felt that they could excel in.
Doesn't that sound as an entrepreneur? That you're here on an everyday basis and you're trying to get the best out of your people? So how does that relate to, because you don't think of yourself as a coach. I think you think more of yourself as a boss or as the leader of the company. But in reality, what he just said is your gold.
Sure. Yeah. I as you explain it like that, yes, I definitely am a coach, because I do have to keep the morale going. And there's always back and forth. Why does this person get to do this and why doesn't that person get to do that? And to be honest with you, sometimes you talk about basketball, but I actually relate more to football. Not that I've ever played a school sport, but I always said, one guy would be, his job would just to be the running back. I said, I'll just give you the ball and you run. You're the running back. I don't want you to worry about the defense. I don't want you to worry about throwing the balls. I don't even want you to worry about your uniforms. I have a guy that's going to come in and paint your helmets every week, And so I would actually break it all down in the football term. I'm sorry I don't use basketball, but I'm sure you could relate to your different key players. I actually tell my people, there's people that play football, and they're, some of them are upset because, I want to be in the backhoe. I want to be the one that does the digs, or I want to be the guy who has the shovel. And I say, well, there's actually football players that play football, and they don't even touch the football the entire game. Now, there might be a blocker, they might be a rusher, and they don't even touch a football. So without you blocking us, we can't run. So I have used that analogy on my men over and over again to win. To win. So.
But you're also the hands-on. Sure. How many days a week are you on a job site?
I'm on the job site every single day.
Yeah.
And I do jump in the hole, which regular business owners, average business owners, or normal business owners think I'm nuts. Why are you in the hole? One thing I do know for sure is that it can't be duplicated as I get older, but I do know for a fact that when I'm in the hole and they say, I can't do this. I can't make this happen. I can't dig this out. I can't dig low enough. It's not going to work. Why'd you give me this? And then they see the old guy get in the hole and start digging and making it happen. And they don't ask that question the next time. They just say they better do it, because if not, the old guy's going to get in the hole and do it.
The only difference would be practice. Because if you're a basketball coach, you have to have practice on an everyday basis, or pretty much an everyday basis, so that the team learns how to play cohesively. But in Frank's business, there's not much practice. You're on the job, and you're either going to fix it or blow it. Those are the two options that you have there. Frank, why don't you talk about how the hands-on part of the business is really the outcome?
Having hands-on is so important, because I am showing them we do get one chance to make it happen. I think that the success for my business has been we are going to make mistakes, and I think it's the way you handle the mistake is the way that you can teach somebody how to do a better job. And I'm always encouraging, as the employee goes out, I am encouraging them that, we're going to get this right. When I do hire managers, I tell them, well, I just want to let you know, right off the bat, you're going to make 25 mistakes in the next 5 days. The great news is we're going to just fix it and we're going to move on. I always use a quote that says, if it can be fixed with time and money, it's only an inconvenience. Okay, and we're going to make the mistakes, but we'll work on it and figure out how we're going to make it better.
And so then the challenge is, okay, you have these guys, you have their credentials, you have players. They don't quite match up to your expectations. Then what do you do?
Well, I think that you, first of all, as the leader, and I really connect with what Frank was saying, because one of the things, before I answer your question specifically, is that we always talked about our coaches sweating with our players, like you getting in the hole, So, and as I got older, I didn't play much in practice like I did when I was younger, but I still would go in the weight room because I kept myself fit, so I was able to still do some things to lead by example, like you going into a hole. And then I think as a leader, the big thing is you have to set the vision and the standards that are going to be acceptable. And what I did like a lot about Frank is something, as I learned as a process, is that one, you want to be specific with your praise. Instead of saying, nice job, Johnny, which he might like, but he doesn't really have a clue. I would always give an example. Johnny, that was awesome on how you dove on the floor for that loose ball. That's what championship players do on championship teams. So he's getting clarity of what our expectations are. And also the other thing is, we'd like to praise more, but also as a leader we got to correct. So, but when you correct, one of the things I learned, and it took me some time, instead of just yelling and screaming, you idiot, is remember you want to correct the problem and not attack the person. So I would always talk to them about this is unacceptable, and sometimes I would raise my voice. They say this is not the way we're going to do this, but then I need to paint that picture of what we're looking for. So it's not just yelling at them. So they got to have some clarity of where they can move forward in a positive way.
One of the great coaching films of all time is UCLA basketball legendary coach John Wooden. And you'll see him coaching players of what to do, but he's standing at the top of the key running the drill. And so every player thinks like, oh, this guy can play. Well, he could play. He played for Purdue,
Yeah.
played for Martinsville High School, little known fact,
Yeah.
in the 20s, and won 9 out of 10 years that he coached at UCLA, won the national championship. Not bad. Of course, he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson, so it wasn't like he was lacking for players. But the bottom line was, he won. And many of the, and Bill Walton, and many of the seasons were undefeated. But he was a player, not just a coach. He could play. And that is something that every entrepreneur has to understand, that you have to be able to play. Every sales manager needs to understand you have to be able to make a sale in front of your people, or they're not going to listen to you. They're not going to respect you. So when Frank is in a ditch, people go, "Damn, God knows what he's doing. He's in the dirt." Well, if he's in the dirt, I need to be in the dirt also. I'm not just going to not be in the dirt. My boss is in there. And that's the challenge that every one of you entrepreneurs has. Are you willing to get in the dirt? Are you willing to get out of your office, go out in the field, talk to your customers, do business with people that want to do business with you, and be the acknowledged leader by virtue of the fact that you're a great coach? Now, I want wrap-up words from all these brilliant guys, because these are challenged people who have become exceptionally successful. And we're going to leave. We are going to leave a link for the JMac video, so you can see why Coach Jim Johnson is one of the best and nicest people who has ever existed in the coaching world, and why Frank DeMaria is one of the best and nicest CEOs that's ever existed, based on his ability to coach and encourage. What do you got to say, Frank, to give my audience a little bit of a boost?
I think being a coach or a business owner is the hardest job on the team. If you win, the guys work great. If you lose, the coach sucks. Okay?
Don't take my word for it. Ask the Seattle Seahawks.
So,
Inarguably the dumbest play in the history of sports, not just football.
yes. So I think that's the hard thing, and we have to keep all the men and women motivated, and then we got to go home and then figure out, how are we going to do this? There is no questions asked that when we're up against the battle, the giant, and we go out to our team and we tell them, this is what I want you to do. For example, I might go into a middle of a field and I tell the guys, what's going on. We have some problems. We have cave-ins from the dirt caving in. It's raining. The machine that we're using that's in the middle of the field unfortunately has a loose tire, and we got to figure out what we're going to do to get this done. And we've got to get this done, because in my job, you don't get the pipe back together. The customer isn't going to the bathroom, okay? All right? And I've tried to give people 5-gallon buckets before, and they didn't think that was funny. So
I think it's funny as hell.
I had to convince my people how to make it happen. And not once, not twice, but several times, I remember giving some of the best speeches I could ever give to my people, and how to get them going, how to get it going, and what to do, and turn away and start walking away. And I said to myself, I don't know how the hell this is going to happen, but I sure hope to God it works.
That's good.
So,
To augment what Frank's saying, from JMAC that Jeffrey's mentioned, is that here was a young man, he's on the autism spectrum. He tried out for a basketball team 3 consecutive years, never made the team, yet he wanted to find a way to serve our program. So he served as our team manager. And just to give you context, I was a head coach for 30 years. I never had a young man try out more than twice if they didn't make it. So for him to try out 3 times, so I admired that never give up mindset, which I think you need as an entrepreneur, as a coach. If you're going to be a leader and have success, you got to have that. And then the second part of that is, how can you as a leader flip that pyramid and serve your people? Because the neat part about the Jason situation is he ends up having this magical game. He scores 20 points in less than 4 minutes, including his 6 3-pointers. Yet 3 weeks later, we win our first Section 5 championship, and he's got to go back as our team manager, even though he's got all this publicity all over the world. But the thing that really always touched my heart is that after that season, we were often interviewed by all kinds of media from all over the world, and they would often ask him, Jason, what was the best thing about your senior season? Expecting him to talk about his game. He'd say, winning the Section 5 championship. There was nothing else as good as that. That's why he just had this servant mindset that I think we just can learn from, his never give up mindset. And because the ironic thing is, Jeffrey mentioned John Wooden. John Wooden was at UCLA at 16 years before he won his first national championship. But then he won 10. So things, and I just summarized, it was my 19th year before we won our first Section 5 championship. And then in my last decade, we made the finals 8 times and won 6. So I think that's something encouraging. I know, Frank, you had mentioned to me before we went live that you struggled a lot early, but you stayed with it, and now you're highly successful. So I think it's a great thing that everybody listening to this can learn from.
Without getting to details, I did see a coach on TV once that got me motivated extremely, and he lost many, I don't know if it was basketball, football, or hockey games, and I think he lost 20 games, and they asked him, how does it feel to lose so many games? And he said, I never lost one. And they said, what are you talking about? Look at your record. You lost them all. And he said, I never lost a game. The time might have ran out, but I never lost a game. And I think that I never look at a loss. I learned as I used the word learn. Yeah. It was another game I learned, and I learned I didn't lose anything, right. And to get to the championship where I am today, thank God.
Right. That's a great point.
All about attitude. I learned a very important lesson from a coach that I hated and then loved. Dr. Jack Ramsey, arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time, was a coach of St. Joseph's College, and I went to Temple University, so we hated St. Joe. But Jack Ramsey could get more out of mediocre players than any coach I've ever seen. And then he moves over to the Portland Trailblazers and drives a stake into the heart of Julius Erving and Moses Malone and Hall of Fame players that should have won a championship but got beat by Bill Walton and a bunch of losers. Because he developed a process of coaching which he called whole, part, whole, where he would get the team together and explain the big picture and then break each individual's job down to their part. And he would explain that to each one of the players, like, this is what you have to do. And then he brings the whole team back together and says, okay, each one of you now has to act your part in order to be able to get to the whole that I described to you in the very beginning. And with that process, he won an NBA championship with less than all-star players. In fact, maybe there were 2 all-star players on the entire team. Think about that as you're coaching your people to win. Think about that as you're encouraging them to win. Make sure their job is defined, and make sure that they have the inspiration to be able to win a championship.